Hi, hopefully I'm getting the hang of this a bit more now, and so this should just be a quick introductory video to the next painting I'm doing. Having gone through in the last video, having gone through the layout of the palette, the colours and how they mix, what I'm doing in this one is actually putting them to the test and making a picture using my new colours. It's, surprise surprise, another little landscape that I've made up. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's get back to work. Okay, here we go. Proper picture. I'll start off with just a hint of yellow ochre in the base of the sky. That dry into there. Get a big wad of paper to stick on there so I can dab my brush on it to dry it out. Okay. So remember, this paper is quite wet. So now I'm going to use just the phthalo blue. See how strong it is. It will dry lighter. It also granulates quite nicely. There. Touch of sepia. No, touch of indigo. Touch of proper red. Cadmium red. And I've got a deep blacky cloudy colour there just to splodge in some clouds. And that is all I'm going to do for the sky. I'm going to leave it to dry for a little bit. I know this is literally watching paint dry, but it's something I actually quite like doing. If you look, because I've got the board at a very slight angle, go in deeper on there. Not sure how well you can see that, but those are where I actually dripped some paint. What a mistake. Dripped some water. But it doesn't matter because it's still wet, so I can just put some more paint into it. As long as your paint's wet, you can still do anything. As long as your paper's wet, rather. That'll just mean I'm going to have to wait longer for it to go off. Stretch the corners out. It will dry perfectly flat. I'm going to get some more of those little ones. They're much better. Easier to stick on and off. There, so that's flat and it will dry even more flatterer. What I wanted you to see there was the way the paint is blending into itself. There, now that will dry. Don't want it totally dry. Because while it's still wet, things will blend. Okay, back to my brush. My wittering means this side's gone off a little bit now. So what I'm going to do now, make it a woodlandy scene. I'm going to use some of the umbers. So that is raw umber, and into it I'm going to put a touch of light red and a touch of indigo. It would have been just the same really if I'd put a touch of that into it. I want this liquid but still thick. I don't want it to be see-through all the way through. Okay, don't want too much paint on the brush, and then bringing in bits of this blue just to add distance. And on the other side, again, raw umber. And this time I'll go straight in with some sepia to darken it down. And a touch of the indigo. Now this side's a lot drier, so there'll be harder edges. Okay. Now, still using this same brush, and I'll clean it a bit. In fact, no, I'll put that away. I'll go back to this brush. My little pointy mop. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the light red, mix some of it into this ochre, and I want a nice thick water paint. And while this is nice and wet, I'm just going to put splodges. That's technical term, splodges. I've added some yellow ochre to some of that. Now I want the strongest colours nearer to us. And the brownyish bits further over. That's still, so it doesn't look completely the same, I'm going to go into that more with yellow ochre. If the video keeps bouncing up and down, it's because I keep bashing the wire. It should be up there. Okay, I'll put some yellow ochre into this so it doesn't look exactly the same as this side. Now just where that joins, it doesn't really join, but what I've noticed now, this is what you call a happy accident. I'll flatten it. Still a bit wavy, it'll dry. But what I'm going to do now is it looking to me as if there's a natural break between those colours and those colours, so I'm just going to harden up the edge a little bit. Sepia and light red. I'm just going to put some tiny dots along that edge. I haven't decided where the light's coming from yet, but I'll put it coming from this way, so the shadow's going to be over that side. So, into that sepia and light red mix, I'm just adding a little bit of the indigo. And that'll be a sort of shadowy colour to drop in. More shadows here. Okay, we've got that sorted. Now, purists will have heart attacks, but sorry, I'm in a bit of a rush. And this time you don't need to watch the paint dry, so if you have hearing problems or don't have hearing problems, stick your fingers in your ears or fast forward over this next bit. Not 100% dry, I don't want it 100% dry, but I want it so it's not sloppy. Because what I'm going to do next is put some trees in. plan to do the trees is, this time to start with, oh you silly man, there. Just realised that I hadn't washed that brush out properly. This is my number 10. It's actually SAA Imitation Sable. I've got a few of those brushes and I'll get more. They're very, very good. It says it all on tin, doesn't it? Imitation Sable. They work like a sable brush, but they don't cost anywhere near as much as a sable brush. Right, okay. Right. And they're SAA, so they're good brand and quite cheap. I'm mixing up fairly thick yellow ochre, just yellow ochre on its little own. I'm going to put some big trees in the foreground here. No, I'll do a different sort of tree there. I'll do 3. Okay, now I'm going to be fairly quickly. This is Charlie Evans fiddle. Okay, that's yellow ochre, burnt sienna, burnt umber. So we've got a light colour, not quite at the end. I've done that wrong. Doesn't matter, I'll change the way the light comes. That is a very, very easy mistake to make. I'd like to say I did it on purpose just to show, but I didn't. It was a cock-up. What I've done is I've put the shadow on the wrong side of the trees. Put the light back in and let those soak into each other. Now, sepia, and into the sepia, the indigo, and that is about as dark as you can get without being pure black. And there we have trees which look a bit round, because by doing that fairly quick you let everything join in. You let it all merge together. It saves you having to do lots of tricky bits. So okay, I'm going to use this same brush because it comes to a lovely point, you may have noticed, as well as a big thick splodgy bit, and I'm going to put some branches, and I'm mixing the dark and the middle tone bit, which is that and that, but not quite as dark as it was. In fact, I'll put some of that in there as well. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is put some branchy bits. I'm just doing these, start the outside edge, just very, very lightly touching it, and then press harder as you get in. Or you can start off pressing hard and then take the pressure off, as long as you end up with the thickest bit of the branch where it comes off the trunk. Right, there we go. We've got some big sticky trees. And on this side, I'm going to do some different trees. Now, because this is better quality paper than the last bit I used, I hope I should be able to lift out on this one. All I'm doing is putting wet water, clean water, not wet water, although it is wet water, you put your clean water and then squeeze out the brush and there's light coloured trees. Now to this number 10, and while that's still damp, I'll use some of the indigo, touch of sepia, I don't want it particularly thick. And there you have instant silver birch trees. At the bottom, now they're a bit like telegraph poles at the moment, so still using this number 10. It's again this dark colour. I've decided to get rid of the 2 camera setup, and I keep forgetting that you can't see my palette when it's down there. So this is my sort of blacky colour, indigo and sepia. Well, I've got this dark colour on my little pointy brush. I'll put some more twiggy bits. Okay, while that's all being done and drying out a bit, I am going to do the foreground. I'm using, this is, can't remember who made it. It's called Black Velvet, and it's, I had 3 of these. I had that one, a bigger one, and a lovely little 1/2 inch, and I've no idea what's happened to the little 1/2 inch, and I've lost it, and it's totally irreplaceable, but this is the next best thing. Okay, I'm going to do some foreground floor bits, and start off with the yellow ochre, into the yellow ochre I'm going to touch the green, and this is where you can see how it mixes. No, you can't. And there, that's a nice distant greeny colour, which I'm going to have in the middle distance there. I've added a little bit of sepia to get a shadow into those trees down there. Now remember, all this bit, now I've changed it, is going to be shadowy. Some blue into the raw umber. Actually, I'm very pleased with this brush, because I was bereft when I lost my little one before. I keep hoping it'll turn up underneath something, but it hasn't. I think I left it at a workshop somewhere, which is sad. I know I did that with my second best sable. It was a number 8 sable, pure Kolinsky sable brush, cost about 80 quid. And I took that years ago. I took that to a demo. I did a demo and it went walkabout while it was there. Probably absolute heartbreakingly to somebody who had no idea what they'd picked up. Right, okay, now while I've got this, it comes to an absolutely razor sharp edge, so I can just put little bits of shadow down that far. end of these trees. Now what I'm going to try and give the impression of is the path disappearing over a rise there. But I'm not sure whether it's going to work. I'll see. What I'm going to do now anyway is have lots of fallen leaves in the foreground here. So to do that, the mixture light red and yellow ochre. One of the good things about a limited palette is that once you've got your palette set out in a certain way and you're used to using the same colours, you know where they are. You don't have to think about looking for something. When you've got a huge, great... I'll show you what I mean. When you've got one of these, which I have and I still use, you've got all that, and who knows what colour is which, and very often they all get covered in each other. Whereas if you've got that and you're thinking, oh, what colour shall I use, and you've got that and you know which colour you're going to use because that's all the colours you've got. Makes sense, honest. Okay, some more of this reddy browny colour. More red as you get into the foreground. I'm adding some of the burnt sienna, which is a really strong reddy colour. And all I'm doing is dipping into these and having orangey colours. And I'm not worrying too much about the bottom because I'll put a mount round it and it won't notice. Now, as I go further over here, it's still wet, but I want the brownier colours as opposed to the reddy colours. Okay, just noticed I want to bring this a bit further forward. I've also just noticed I've got a flipping great big wet blob on it. Okay, yellow ochre and yellow yellow, cadmium yellow. Because cadmium is also a fairly robust colour, it covers quite well. Again, purists don't like it when you do this, because you're supposed to only put a tiny amount of... No, you're supposed to have all your layers transparent so that they work like stained glass, but it's very difficult, so I tend not to bother. I think part of the problem, not part of the problem, but in the purest days of watercolour, the paints were quite peely-wally, and you had to build up glazes and have them showing through each other because they were all transparent. But now the paint making is so much better. See how that cadmium really brings it through. I am glad that I decided to use cadmium. So there, we've got lots of stuff in the foreground there. I need a harder edge along there. What I'm going to do, still using this little brush, to try and give the impression that that's going over a little hill, I'm going to use some of the blue into the green and a lot of the sepia in it, which will knock back the brightness. Put a bit of that yellow in. And I'm going to put a bushy bit. Oh, I've made a mistake, it's the end of the world. Nah. If you put something where it shouldn't be, get some water, damp brush, and suck it out again. Actually, that will be better. Because I can, yeah, I've got a lighter bit. At the moment I've got a mess, but I will have a lighter bit there when I put a different colour on top of it. Now, sun coming this way. I'm using the yellow ochre and that green. Okay, I've still got to wait while that dries and then I can put something across it. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go back to my big number 10 brush. There he is. And I'm going to take almost all the water out of it. Now I want a grey colour, indigo and raw umber. Now a lot of this at the moment is me experimenting with these colours. That's why I went and then decided on raw umber. What I'm doing now, I'm going to dry most of the water out of that brush, and I'm going to use the side of the brush. Bit more going across some of those. This is the sort of thing that you can do too much of. So that's finished. Okay, on this side I want more leafy bits. So I'm going to use, too much. The yellow ochre, and into the yellow ochre the burnt sienna. And just to take some of the edge off that, a tiny touch of raw umber. And again, almost dry brush. Too wet. Now, darkening it a bit. All I'm doing is mixing some of the dark into it because I want to have some of this scumbling coming over the trees. Now, that's dry. So where's my little 1/2 inch flat? This is pure yellow ochre, quite watery. And into that, while it's still wet, tiny touch of the cadmium yellow. Hopefully that'll dry quite nicely. And now, I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but with a bit of luck it will. Still using this big brush, I'm going to mix quite a strong mix of cadmium yellow, cadmium red, and that is straight out the tube, more or less. And what I'm going to do, just using the tip, no, it's not working. So what I'm going to do is mix some yellow ochre into that cadmium, because yellow ochre is more opaque. Now this is where the Charles Evans sand would have come in handy. Because it's very, very strong and thick. Right, okay. Not brilliant. It's too long. I may edit this and take some stuff out. Shadow colour, indigo, light red, indigo, light red. Now I want some shadows. There you go. That's just given me an idea. I'm going to put some, mix up a little splodge of sepia, and I'll put some shadowy bits in these. Oh, there we go. Forgot to do some little bits of tree trunk going into there, so I'll use some of my dark colour. And I've moved on to my rigger just to put some bits of tree in here. There, that'll do. Right, there we go. Just a couple of minutes. see the end of it. There's the finished picture, for want of a better term. I should have put something else down here, but never mind, I can always do that. In fact, can I do it now? Yes, probably. Bit of green. There you go, something in the foreground. And that's that. Just a little quickie thing. But I'm quite pleased with some of the mixes I'm getting out of this. Hopefully I'll get better as time goes on playing with this palette. But there we go. That's an autumn scene playing around with this new palette of mine. It's a very, very long video. I'll probably fast forward over some of it. But thanks for watching if you've bothered, and see you later.